Today we're going to cover the most horrific movies that I've watched, and I don't paint myself to be a dictionary, okay? But horrific is scary or disturbing. So we're going to be covering both angles, and we're starting off pretty soft with number one, so don't turn it off after this one. We'll breeze past it. Zodiac, the basement scene. I felt that kind of rat being caught in a trap kind of feel from that scene. And look, some people are going to say Zodiac isn't horror. Whatever. I mean, serial killing, those types of movies, I think do fit into that, especially because it's like a real life boogeyman walking the earth. And the next film kind of is that as well. Funny Games. The disturbing nature of Peter and Paul. They are sinister. They are menacing. Even though outwardly at the beginning they don't really look as such. But the film does such a good job of painting them to be that in the end. And how unforgiving they are really is... that's some horrific shit to me personally. A little bit spooky, a little bit scary. And it's kind of disturbing what they do to that family, and it makes it one of the most horrific home invasion films of all time. And we have another sinister villain with I Saw the Devil, and it is an apropos title for this film, because the antagonist is an absolute demon. He gets the shit kicked out of him time and time again, but he keeps popping back. And we get to see the grisly murders that, well, not all of them, but we get to see him grisly or murder in a grisly fashion. Finally got it out. But yeah, we see some really horrific bodily injuries. And this guy just, he really personifies, I guess, the need that serial killers have to continue, because he has basically every opportunity to not, and continues jumping back into the fray, and the ending is just bananas. One of the few films that I saw recently that has made this list, though Funny Games did as well. Hereditary is up next. This is going to make a lot of people happy, because a lot of people love this film. Look, I need to rewatch it. I know it's great. I know it's really, really great. One of the best horror films of all time. I had it below Midsummer, and I know this is apparently a cardinal offense, and I'm going to rewatch it to see if or how wrong I was. But even before having rewatched this film, the telephone pole scene filled me with the type of dread that any film should be applauded for being able to make the audience feel something. And I do feel, in a way, it is the modern day Exorcist, which is what a lot of critics were saying at the time. And I think it's right, because the more you watch The Exorcist, I think even in current day, the more you can appreciate it. And I do feel like Hereditary is a film that holds up upon rewatch, because I have rewatched it multiple times, because I like it just as much as you do. And sorry if it wasn't rated on my best of the last decade list as high as you would have liked, but rest assured, we both respect the film. Okay, that first and foremost, I respect this film highly, and it is something, or rather a film, that I do find to be truly horrific. Next, we have 28 Days Later. I included this because it is one of the scariest zombie films of all time, because they make the zombies so scary. A lot of times I can honestly just watch zombie movies without, let's be honest, heart to heart here, right? I'm talking straight to you, because you probably watch a shit ton of horror films if you're watching this video, because you're looking for something that's gonna really grab you by the horns. Because let's be honest, a lot of horror films really don't do that for us anymore. We want to recapture that feeling from childhood when we would watch a scary movie and we're like, oh my God, like that genuinely scared the crap out of me. 28 Days Later is the best that offering you're going to get from zombie films. Because personally, I watch zombie films and I'm like, you know what? I kind of think these zombies aren't that good. And I think after a few days, all these zombies would probably just, or they would defeat themselves, for lack of a better term. 28 Days Later, I don't think I came out from watching that with that same feeling. So I got to give credit where credit is due. Number 6 is a movie that recaptured that childhood feel. Pulse. This is a super thoughtful film. It's really, really deep. It's going to make you think about it well after the fact, but they call it the Cairo ghost scene, and holy hell, it literally raised the hairs on the back of my neck. It's hard to put into words why it's so good. Besides, it just feels unnatural. It feels like you're watching something and like something's happening to your brain where you're not processing the information correctly. And that just speaks to how good a scene that is. And there's a lot of good stuff later on in the film, but man, oh man, that is one of the best horror scenes of all time. And that's no lie. That's no cap, as the kids would say. Number 7, Kitoko. The main character is just one of the creepiest main characters ever, and the cinematography does a really good job of capturing these scenes and sequences as though you're up close and personal with this character, and you really don't want to be. One of the best character studies of a just genuinely unsettling character that you're going to want to watch, because they seem unhinged. And that is kind of, to be in close proximity to someone like that, that's not a good feeling. Number 8, The Strangers. This is, for me, the first movie where it's like, oh my God, did you see that in the background? And it's just really, really creepy that, you're aware of something that the characters aren't. Has you pulling for the main characters pretty hard when you have information that you feel they don't have yet. And I appreciate that. Number 9, I know I'm going to get flack for this. It's Paranormal Activity. Okay, so for all you now people maybe my age or older, this came out 17 years ago, so I was 11 when this came out, and I saw this in theaters. And I will tell you, the jump scares scared the ever-loving bejesus out of a young taco, okay? The ending, I simultaneously cramped in my hamstring as that happened, and the audio is just at a fever pitch, and I'm literally yelling at the top of my lungs, cramp, but it was elongated. It wasn't just cramp, it was cramp, as the audio is just at a fever pitch. I don't know if anyone else noticed this. I'm there with my family members. Yeah, man. How many other films can you say that about? So I got to give credit where credit's due. If I watch this today, is it going to scare Taco? I don't know. But it put the fear of God into an 11-year-old Taco. And for that, I thank them. And I gotta give it its shout out and its flowers now. Number 10, Martyrs. This is genuinely disturbing. There is violence against women, and it's not even the ending so much as just like run-of-the-mill violence against women that it's I don't know if mundanity is a word, but the mundane nature of it all, where it's just commonplace violence. It feels like, if there was a domestic dispute, I'm really lucky to have not grown up in a house like that, but it's like watching your father get physical with your mother, and it literally put just a pit in my stomach. It's like, yeah, it really, it comes from like a real world place where it's just disgusting. I really don't know what other word to say. More so than the ending, which is supposed to be over the top, but you're just getting a grown man committing violence on a grown woman in such a realistic manner that it hits home and is just not that out of all the scenes. And if you've watched this movie, you know how brutal some of these scenes get. I mean, it tries to go well over the line, but it's those scenes that I'm talking about that just they hit me hard all the way to my core. Number 11, there is a scene from The Cell 2000, which, it has J-Lo, has Vincent D'Onofrio, where the serial killer, you get a glimpse into his childhood where he's abused by his mom, and she takes a clothes iron and, is seen to burn him with it. And I watched this as a youngster. I liked the look of the cover art for this movie. I thought it looked super cool as a kid. We picked it up from the grocery store. Weirdly enough, had a VHS section. We picked it up, rented it. I watched it. Don't remember exactly how young I was, but it was scarring as a little youngster. And I've watched it recently. Nowhere near as bad looking back, but man, that is a scene that will stick with me for a long time, just because I remember as a kid, like it struck a chord with me. Number 12, another repressed childhood memory. The Exorcist, the beginning. The possessed woman was really, really creepy. How she's just like spider crawling all over this buried church. But when the brother, you'll only know this scene if you've watched the movie, but when the young kid was torn apart by hyenas, and I watched this again recently, it doesn't look impressive visually at all. I mean, it looks quite fake now, actually, but whenever I watched this as a kid, man, I think I cried. Roast me if you want to. I don't remember how young I was when I saw it, but I was like, this is just not right. It just struck a chord. 13, Audition. Never trust a hoe, guys. You can trust a woman, but don't trust a hoe. I mean, there's been songs, there's been rhymes. Need I say more? I mean, the violence committed by the main antagonist is just brutal. That's what I will say in earnest. And the sound effects, what's said during and what is being, what's happening. I watched this as a full-grown man, very recently, actually, for the first time ever. So this isn't like a childhood, hey, this hit me hard back then, whatever. But yeah, I mean, as a grown man, this one still affects me. Then we have at 14, The Exorcist 3, and I just got to get it's exciting because this is the best jump scare ever, in my opinion. And I'm not the first to have said this. But you know, I love the Exorcist series because 1 is so good and 3 is the other film that makes this series worth watching. So I'm just going to simplify and say what I should have said to begin with. These two, that being Exorcist 1 and Exorcist 3, are just great films. And or very good films. The reason Exorcist 3 is so good, it takes the imagery up a notch, and then, you know, it has the jump scares that a lot of people who like that stuff and were disappointed that Exorcist 1 didn't have it, well, here you go. So everyone goes home happy after watching Exorcist 3, and basically to say, I think it caters to more of a modern audience. Number 15, this one I'm embarrassed to even put, but I feel like I wouldn't be being honest with you if I didn't include this. And I don't think anyone else is going to find this scary, maybe besides if you're younger and you're watching this, which, you know, I apologize, but it's The Conjuring 2. Yeah, I got scared by that. Me and Dad, man, went to see this in theater. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I was like, we gotta, you know what, Dad, man, we got a piece. I'm getting a little spooked here. And we did that. So yeah, that's the most embarrassing thing I'm going to share with you, the audience members. And go ahead, roast me. I ain't scared. Number 16, 30 Days a Night. These are the scariest vamps in the horror history, I guess. Josh Hartnett is in it. But the look of the vamps are, you know, they go back to Nosferatu when it comes to inspiration, as opposed to, it was definitely like, okay, Interview with a Vampire kind of made the pretty boy vampires that we now see in Twilight a thing. Hell nah, we're taking this back to the OG Nosferatu and we're making this shit scary again. And they did. It never like actually scared me, but I just, this is the one that could do that, I guess, because they have the look, for lack of a better term. And number 17, Midsummer. Y'all know I like this film, and the opening is intense. You get a lot of that same intensity that Ari Aster does so well in Hereditary in Midsummer. With that opening, with the cliff scene, with the ending, he has an innate ability as a director to just punch you in the gut, which ultimately we're looking for that at this point. Us grizzled horror vets, we want a film that's going to make us really feel the movie, make us feel uncomfortable. Midsummer does just that. And it's the perfect feeling for me, quite frankly, because the jump scare, you know, whatever, that's like a jolt of adrenaline. But Midsummer, it's like this sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach that it's dread, or, you know, you're like, I don't know, it's something special, something I really like. Hopefully you get a takeaway from this list, something that you can watch if you're looking for something like that. I appreciate you joining me. As always, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss what's next, and I will catch you on the Flippity Floop. Bye, y'all.